Sports shape lives, build communities, and drive billion-dollar industries. Yet their true impact often goes unnoticed.
From personal growth and well being to career potential, it's time to rethink what sports can do. This is the Why Not Sports podcast. Welcome to the Why Not Sports podcast, a podcast where we dive into the business and community side of sports. Today, we are honored to welcome Chad Hartman. Chad Hartman is a leader in corporate partnerships and nonprofit development. Chad currently serves as a national vice president of corporate partnerships and engagement at the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, where he helps forge meaningful relationships between corporations and one of the nation's most impactful youth organizations. With over 2 decades of experience, Chad has built a career in the intersection of business, strategy, and philanthropy. Before joining the Boys and Girls Clubs of America, he held executive roles at the USO and the Epilepsy Foundation, leading major fundraising initiatives and corporate alliances that have driven long-term impact. Chad's background is also deeply rooted in both business and in sports, having earned an undergraduate degree in sports management and an MBA from High Point University. With a wealth of experience in development, strategic partnerships, and community engagement, Chad is here to share his insights on the Boys and Girls Club and the role of sports and philanthropy in shaping the next generation. Chad Hartman, welcome to the show.
That's quite the intro. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And Chad, the first question that we love to start off with is, what's your sports story?
Sports is ingrained in everything I do, from a kid to where I am today. I have been very fortunate to, at a young age, to really experience a lot of sports. I played baseball, basketball, soccer, and for me, soccer is what stuck. And for me, the sports story was actually part of Boys and Girls Clubs. I never thought this would be a full circle moment for me. I grew up in a club in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, playing soccer, which was a unique story in understanding how I got to where I am today at this organization, and it's just been such a privilege to see. But again, in sports, for me, I was very fortunate to start out at a young age playing lots of different things. And I would say about 13, 14, I really stuck with like, hey, soccer, football, wherever you are in the world. It was very interesting to me. And then I had the opportunity to travel, and I went on a missions trip when I was at a young age to Guatemala. And I couldn't speak a lick of English or a lick of Spanish. I can't even speak that good of Spanish now. But the difference was that sport crossed barriers. And I went and I played and I saw kids from in Guatemala, and we just played and played for literally days on end. And it was just out in the street. It was just a great experience. And so one that gave me the love for travel, and two, football, of like that was the sports creates these bonds that from cultures, ethnicities, language, and it was just something that I really took, like I really thought, oh man, that's something special. And so I was again fortunate to play in college. I played at High Point University for 4 years, and that was right when they turned Division I. And I'll give them a shout out because they made it to the NCAA basketball tournament for the first time.
They did, yeah.
This year, both men and women's. And so it was a awesome experience. And then I wanted to say, man, I am so invested in this. I want to major in sports management.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get into sports. And as soon as I got out of college, I started coaching because I was like, man, I just can't let this alone. So I did that for about a year and a half, and I was like, hey, this is again more, I just want a different angle, more of a business angle as opposed to a coach. And so I went back to my alma mater, and I was working in the athletic department and sports marketing, and then got into athletic development, which is we had the Panther Club, so it was our development excuse me, it was our development resource for the department on raising money and supporting scholarships, et cetera, for future athletes, future students. So that's really been my story, and then it's been ever since. I just have been connected to it. And then I got connected with the Fox Sports team through our great work here at the organization. And just I'm very passionate about those types of opportunities. And so at the Boys and Girls Club America, we work with partnerships with the NFL, Major League Baseball, WWE, Fox Sports, ESPN. And so still having that angle from a community social impact side is really brings me a lot of joy and a lot of fun day in and day out.
No, yeah, thank you, Chad, for sharing that. And I guess people are familiar with the Boys and Girls Club. I would say that's a really popular youth organization. But to somebody who's kind of like more of a casual, know of what you guys do, how would you define what the Boys and Girls Club is and what the mission is for you guys?
Yeah. So Boys and Girls Club excuse me, Boys and Girls Clubs of America, we serve 3.3 million youth on an annual basis. We have 5,400 clubs around the country in local communities, um, military bases, public housing, in schools. And so we are entrenched in basically all across the country and military installations. And so having the opportunity to work with youth at all levels, it really provides access and a safe place for kids to go work through, build their skills in their academics, looking at health and well-being as it relates to sports, really making physical activity a part of their daily habits, as well as looking at life and workforce readiness and preparing the next generation of kids and propelling them into the future. And ultimately, there's so many opportunities for kids, outside of Boys and Girls Club America, and it's really been critical for our mission to really provide opportunities for in underserved communities. And so, I think going back to sports is a real recruiting tool for us because it brings kids together in local
Mm,
communities, basketball, soccer, baseball. There's a number of baseball fields within our clubs. So it's really an important aspect of everything we do for the organization. And so in totality, it's really the leading youth development organization in the country.
absolutely. And Chad, can you tell me a little bit about how you got, to this position? I mean, I didn't know it was a full circle moment for you, but you worked in some like nonprofit sectors outside of sports before coming to the Boys and Girls Club. And I'm sure you lead some initiatives there as well that fit outside of the scope of sports. So how was that journey? What does that mean to you now? And kind of like how does that motivate you today going forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, the as you work and you learn things like, oh, I'm really attracted to that project or that opportunity, and you keep dabbling with it. So I just had some really cool opportunities to try a lot of things. Early on, I tried everything I possibly could. Tried new jobs, new experiences. I tried to talk to lots of people to say, what's your experience? And I think it was just you begin to learn and refine the skills over a period of time. So for me, I was at High Point University and I worked with our president, Dr. Nito Cobain, who's still there and done an incredible job. But seeing how I could bring impact to kids or to students and to show that the value of helping raise funds was the bridge to bringing the mission to life. And so that was something that was really attractive to me as I continued down this path in the nonprofit space and then specifically with corporate partners. Because a lot of our corporate partners like Fox Sports, they're looking for ways to really show impact with their investment. And the Game Changer Fund that they have specifically is really focused on giving kids access to play, right? That's the first big thing. And so for
Yeah,
me, from a career perspective, that was like, oh, I can see how this ties together.
totally.
Also, with that the Game Changer Fund, they also focus really on mentoring and coaching, and that's something I did. So I was like, oh, I can see how this all comes
Yeah,
together. And then really on the third side is really that life and workforce readiness side of like how, because that was me, right? I was coming up my career, trying to figure out what to do, but from their perspective, from Fox Sports' perspective, they have, how do you create the next generation of broadcasters or directors for the Super Bowl or operational programmatic work around a big event? So it's so interesting what the connective dots are in this, and for me, it's a full circle moment because I can kind of tie it together from my own
yeah.
career as we look at bringing it to life.
Yeah, and how did that opportunity come about? When was it like a real possibility that you could get your hands dirty with the Boys and Girls Club?
Actually, it was something that I was connected to through kind of my network. And then when the opportunity came and had to come here, it was, I was like, man, if you look at some of the corporate partners we work with, it's some of the top companies in the country. And say, oh my goodness, to see and work with a group of folks of dedicated staff that are really driving social impact in a big way within the corporate community. I was really attracted to that because I was like, how can I help scale a program that's been so there's been such a strong legacy of the program
Right.
for so many years. I was like, how can I help continue to bring some entrepreneurial spirit and drive to the effort?
Totally, totally. And you mentioned the Fox Sports Game Changer Fund.
Yeah.
So how did that come to be? And can you tell us a little bit more about specifically some of the initiatives that you guys do, like maybe in this year's Super Bowl, for example?
Yeah, sure. So Eric Shanks, the CEO of Fox Sports, is on our board. He is also a club kid, which we've
Yeah.
connected on, and we also have some other staff on the team that are local regional board members like Terry Hines and others. So we've got a really close connection with Fox Sports, and in so many ways. I'll talk a little bit about this the Super
Yeah.
Bowl, but I'll also add some about the Major League Baseball too. But with the Super Bowl this year, it was working with Fox Sports with that Super Bowl. I learned so much because me personally, but also the kids that were involved. So we hosted an event. They made a significant investment into the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Louisiana, where they built a tech room that we went from completely scratch to this amazing room that kids can enjoy and really um, hone their skills in many different ways.
Yeah.
Provided computers. They really made it a tangible difference in that community. But they also not only for that one club provided that, but they provided computers for all of the clubs in the metro area. So it was so cool to see. And then they brought out their broadcasters like Rob Gronkowski, Mark
Yeah.
Sanchez, Christina Pink, Howie Long, and they talked to the kids about how they got there and what they needed to focus on to continue to improve their skills at a young age and say, kind of expose them to things that they may not have been able to see. And so it was not only the broadcasters that came out, but they also brought the director of the Super Bowl of the broadcast come out and talk about her experience, and the senior vice president of operations really focused on bringing the entire game day event to life. And so giving these kids an opportunity to see what is available and kind of seeing the bigger picture outside of their day to day was just extra special.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of on that, Chad, I want to ask you a more personal question, kind of about the Boys and Girls Club and some of the initiatives that you guys have done. Are there any specific stories or moments? It can be outside of the Game Changer Fund too, that particularly stick out to you?
Would you mind if I go back and just mention about the Major League Baseball?
Oh yeah, go ahead for it.
So on the Major League Baseball side, every year as a part of our Youth of the Year program. So this is a program that goes over 12 months, and it gives kids leadership skills, resume building.
Yeah.
They go and get to experience job interviews at various companies of our partners, etc. And so the so that starts at in the local clubs. It continues to the state level, the regional level, and then there's a national Youth of the Year. The National Youth of the Year winner got to be on I believe it was Game 3 of the World Series with Fox Sports, and they got interviewed at the pregame and got an
Oh yeah.
incredible experience with some of the other club kids or club alum, like Alex Rodriguez is a club alum and
Yes.
has done a lot of stuff with us and is on our board. And so having that experience, one to provide a youth ambassador, really to go on the broadcast, share his story and bring it to life. Those are the things that not many youth get to do. And so that's what we bring experiences and opportunities to kids across the country.
Absolutely. And is that what you would deem? I mean, that's an awesome initiative. Um, I know you kind of were involved in soccer a little bit. For you, is there another story that you want to like shed some light on? Maybe a specific, like, maybe an alum or a kid that like really made a big connection with you.
Let me just understand the question. You just want me to talk about an alum or a kid that I met that I could share a story around?
Yeah, I mean, or like just one that is really meaningful to you, Chad. Maybe one that you're like, when I ask you this question, like maybe the first or second one that pops into your head that you're like, oh, like this story or this kid or this circumstance is really a good story for showing like how proud I am to work in this space.
Yeah, I've got a few. I think for me, the the special moment is working with kids. I could tell you about people I've met. I've been very
Yeah,
fortunate to meet Denzel Washington and A-Rod and uh, uh, you know many a number of folks in my career and specifically at Boys and Girls Club America. But for me, it's really about the youth. And there was a youth of the year who won her regional competition, and her name was Abby. And Abby was had this incredible story of adversity. She just was. It was hard to get kind of where she was. I mean, she just worked. She was just a tireless worker, and she just, if one door closed, she found another door that was open. And for me, I drive it back to kind of that sports analogy of you gotta keep working at it. And to get good, you just have to keep focused. And just
right.
because you may fail at one opportunity, the next one's gonna come. So don't be discouraged. Just get up, brush yourself off, and continue on. And Abby was that perfect. Like I think about her a lot in particular
Yeah.
because you don't find that many people that are just committed to keep going. And so I just want to say that if that was probably the most meaningful thing to me is like just continuing to encourage the young generation of of talent that's coming through is, hey, just keep focused. You may not have had the best background.
Hmm.
Something may have happened to you that is so unfortunate, but there is a lot of opportunity, and you can make your way through it if you just keep focused and keep building good habits and good rapport with people and good personality and good attitude. I think attitude is everything as it relates to this, as it relates to sports, as it relates to careers, as it relates to continuing to build social impact in communities around the country.
Absolutely. And kind of, for you, I mean, you have a fascinating story too, the way you ended up, in this position and kind of where you got involved super early, doing a community service project abroad. And so if you could go back in time and you could kind of talk to young Chad about, you know, maybe when you were in Guatemala, right? Like what would you tell him uh, in terms of like maybe what you've learned from sports or working in the sports industry, but just necessarily like what motivation or what advice would you give that young child?
That's a great question. In I think it goes back to, for me, what's special is building bonds with people. It's like everyone brings a unique perspective to the table. And just understanding where they might be coming from, and maybe really putting yourself in their shoes. I would say that is one important like moment in time that I would say, hey, young Chad, that's something you'll take with you for the rest of your life. I also think helping and working and building teams, as
Mm.
you've got a lot of people, I was a central midfielder when I was playing soccer. And
Oh
for
yeah, big
me,
distributor. Yeah.
I distributed, right? And so it was me, is like, hey, if you help get the team around you, I can help provide assists. I can help, sometimes I can score a goal. Like you have to step up in the moment, right? And I think those team characteristics and values that you build, you actually can use them in your job. You can use them in your company. You can bring leadership in different ways. Like you don't always have to be the CEO. You can bring leadership to a
Yeah.
project. You can bring leadership to a task, or something really special to you. So leadership comes in lots of different ways, and I would say that was an important lesson in sports that I took from it.
Absolutely. I mean, I fundamentally believe that leadership is about service and serving others and really finding a way to facilitate their success. So, Chad, for you, do you have any leadership principles that you've kind of learned, working with the Boys and Girls Club or any of your other like philanthropic initiatives?
Yeah. For me, there's and other people may connect with this, but I get up every day to work because I enjoy working with the people around me. I enjoy the mission, absolutely. I enjoy the work itself, but it's about the people that you work with. It's achieving a goal together. There's not one person that achieves that goal. And we were reading a book here recently as a leadership team, and one of the things that came out of it that I thought was interesting is, Steve Jobs, when he created the cell phone, people think Steve Jobs came up with this great idea. No one knows that there was 4,000 people behind it, building the widgets, building the
Yeah.
batteries, bringing the case together, working on the screen, etc. And I think that's the difference in leadership of how you can bring people along on that journey, debate a topic or idea without being personally offended, how having to look at where the vision is and where you're going and how everyone can kind of work towards it. And I would say leadership's about vision. It's about thinking ahead. It's not about today, but it's about what's happening in the future, and then continuing to get people motivated and working alongside you to achieve a specific task. And I see that in sports, right? In sports, for me,
Yeah.
when I was playing soccer or football, it was, hey, we wanted to make it to the championship game. That was our vision. So you got to work every day to figure out how you're going to do that. You play games, you gain points, or you work towards that big idea or big opportunity or big vision. And sometimes you fall short and you have to reevaluate. Sometimes you get the big win. And for me, I do love, much like any athlete, you love to win, right? And so that
Yeah.
was kind of my, hey, I can do this outside of just playing sports, right? And so you got to kind of work on those characteristics and those values and those leadership moments, and you continue to refine them as your career goes on.
Yeah. And kind of one more question on this topic since we're on it. You as a leader, and especially at an organization like the Boys and Girls Club, what are some small things that you do intentionally to, serve the people on your team to like facilitate their success?
Yeah, for me, every individual has a little bit different way of being recognized, right? Some people like to be publicly recognized. Some people like a personal note. Some people like a trophy. Some people just like to do it as a group, right? And so I think it's being really intentional and providing a personal message or a personal growth opportunity that can really get the staff encouraged of like, hey, Chad's being thoughtful, or hey, he's thinking about me in a different way. And I think just continuing to do small things day in and day out keep people motivated and be like, oh, that I think that's a real quality. That's real quality from a leader, of like, hey, what does that mean to me? Because sometimes people can go on and they can go fast and they go on to the next project, but they don't take a moment to celebrate, right? And I think that celebration moment, much like sports, after you win a championship, take the moment to enjoy it, embrace it, and figure out, okay, how do you do that again? And I think that's the same thing in business, or the same thing in the nonprofit space.
No, kudos to you, Chad. I can tell you're super intentional, and I can tell by the way that the energy comes off the screen, of how passionate the smile ear to ear when you talk about this. So, I'm sure you translate that very well. And kind of transitioning into the power of sports for social change, you know, in the role that you do today, and what you guys are doing with the Boys and Girls Club, right? Like, what's keeping you up at night? What are some of the biggest challenges in ensuring that you know kids have equal access to quality sports program, or driving the mission of the Boys and Girls Club today?
Yeah. I would say some of the things that keep me up at night is continuing to provide access to kids across the country. Like many uh, kids or families deal with is, it's expensive to travel in sports, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive. Like it's a lot, like on an annual basis. But I think where the missing spot is, where the Boys and Girls Club really plays a key role, is providing access to all kids to play sports, right? And getting in the community, they can play, they can play basically every single day, and in with kids of all different backgrounds, right? And I think for me, that's a key piece as it relates to the sports and what our communities are dealing with. Also, just from a health and well-being perspective, getting kids to get out and be active and be champions both on the field and off the field is something else that I think is really special for kids as it relates to their day-to-day work and their day-to-day life. And I think the other thing that I would say keeps me up at night, really, as it relates to the kids, is how do we provide resources to continue this legacy for years to come, and how do we think about that? How do we continue to reinforce that and get individuals, corporations, foundations to really step up in a big way to make it possible? And Fox Sports is a great example of an organization that has really stepped up in a big way to make sure that kids have access in not only from a sports perspective, but technology perspective, and
Yeah,
really driving social impact in communities around the country.
that's beautiful. And how do you guys measure success, in these initiatives, these sports initiatives, beyond just the participation numbers?
Yeah, I think one, it's uh, giving the kids access to play. Two, it's providing coaches opportunities to learn and build their skills to teach kids how to play. And I think that the coaching and mentoring of that is huge, because mentorship helps in many different aspects. One, it helps the kids, but it helps you along your way in your career. It's always good to have a few folks that could shoot you straight and say, hey, how do I build this skill set to help me get to where I want to go? So I think giving that access to, one, coaches, but kids to understand what mentorship even means. And then ultimately looking at, what's possible. So giving kids exposure, like getting to meet A-Rod and seeing his career, and coming from
Yeah.
Miami at a Boys and Girls Club in Miami, and building his baseball skills and continuing down his career path to where he is today, is a great story of where kids could be today and where they could go in the future.
No, yeah, absolutely. For me, a big reason why we're doing this show and this project is it's very simple. The kind of the baseline is sports are good.
Yeah.
Sports drive positive business and societal change. And I can't think of a better example than the Boys and Girls Club of how that's done at a scale that affects almost every city in the country, right? And so, at least major city. And I that's a really interesting point. I'm a business major. We talk about, like a few days ago, we had a lecture on what's the most important position in business, and a lot of people were saying, or the professor said, it's the middle manager. The middle manager gets to touch, you know, it's kind of the facilitator between, you know, CEO, upper level, but it's also the person that can make the biggest change on the people that are on the floor, right? And so I think from coaching, there's a good parallel there that, and Mark Toyama kind of talked about this. We interviewed him, the importance of coaches to be equipped to make the best decisions, to provide the best guidance, because these are people that are exposed to the youth, right? To like kids who are invested. And I can't think of a better parallel for what the importance of coaching is. And kind of going off of that, Chad, if you had a magic wand and you could make a change about the current landscape or one of the biggest challenges that you guys have, like what would you change and why?
To me, I find academics being a key component to success, education. And I would say giving kids, a lot of kids have different circumstances in school, and the Boys and Girls Club is really a complement to that, really for out of school opportunities. But two, continuing to reinforce that academics are the key to our future, one as a country, but also as an individual. And I think continuing to reinforce that, we've got some real challenges as it relates to the education gaps that we've got. And so I think staying focused on how do we provide kids those educational opportunities and bringing the resources. And I think what's incredible about our club kids or our kids in the clubs is really a lot of our members, if they can graduate, 97% graduate high school. And so it's a great equation of, impacting in clubs equals successful graduation rates equal, builds onto the success of, college or work or vocational school or military, whatever it is. But, I think that those ingredients just need to continue to be focused on in significant ways now and into the future.
Totally, totally. And Chad, how can listeners, whether individuals or businesses, support the work that the Boys and Girls Club is doing, right? Through sports, particularly.
Um, could you say it one more time?
So, how can listeners, whether it's an individual who wants to get involved or maybe a business, support the work that you guys are doing through sports?
Absolutely. One, get involved in the local club in your community, volunteer. Two, you can go onto our website, bgca.org, and learn more about our programs. Bring your time, treasure, and talent to the effort and to the organization. We call it the movement overall. So we've got the full movement working towards some big initiatives over the next few years, which we're very, very excited about. And or feel free to connect with those local clubs and in those moments to really bring your skill set. Maybe there's something unique that is that you can bring, that an individual can bring, that would help drive social change in communities around the country.
No, absolutely. That's awesome. I'm part of a community service organization here at A&M, and we have a kind of like a board kind of figure where we're always bringing up ideas what we can do, and we get really overwhelmed trying to like find out what the most impactful one could be, but we always end up at the end of the day saying, guys, like, these are all great ideas, these are all to help people. You can never have too much good when it's about serving others. So I mean, the Boys and Girls Club is one we've actually partnered with here locally as well. Sometimes when we'll go out, we'll go read to those kids, and that's always a fan favorite for us. Getting involved and getting to work with you guys, and
Yeah, I think the kids is what makes it special.
for sure, 100%. And for young athletes like yourself, like back in the day, or kids that want to get into this business side of sports, what's one message that you would want to leave them with?
I relate it all back to sports. Have fun, enjoy the journey, work hard, and never fear failure. Because those are the things that refine your skills and build you into a better human, a better organizer, and a better leader. And so I think that it really the characteristics and the values I learned through sports were invaluable throughout my career and continue to be very valuable to me in my current state, in my current role. And so I think, continue to learn and build on the great work, and ultimately just know that it's not one individual that does all of this. It takes teams. It takes a lot of thought and being really intentional in what you're bringing to the table to help drive either social change, business growth, or really helping drive the next generation of kids into opportunities that they won't even explore, they're not even aware of. And I think that is what's really special about the role and about the work I do.
Yeah, that's awesome, Chad. And kind of a follow up on that. Let's say, we have a listener who just falls in love with your job, right? Somebody says, wow, what Chad is doing with the Boys and Girls Club, like hopefully one day I can get there, right? Like, what's the biggest piece of advice in terms of how to get there, within the sports industry, whether it's from the nonprofit side, right? Or again, like the business side, like what is like advice you would give to a young professional who's looking to get into that field particularly?
Get internships, try different things early on. Figure out what you like or don't like, or what you want to explore a little further, because those opportunities are hard to get, specifically in the sports industry, because there's such an interest. So I think getting those opportunities early and often is my key advice to young professionals, or anyone coming out of school, or soon to be out of school.
No, yeah, totally. And Chad, one last thing, or last question before the last question. Uh, so is there any like kind of big misconceptions that you kind of notice about, working in sports, working in the sports industry?
Misconceptions. I think I do have a misconception. Everyone thinks that working in the sports industry is all fun. There's a lot of hours. Sports happen all days of the week. There's many hours in it, and it's not all fun and games. And so I think that's probably a misconception, that people think, oh, they work in sports, they have the dream job. Not always. That's not always the case. And but I think those opportunities, those unique experiences, does come with those, as I shared before, hard work, continuing to try to keep it as fun as much as you can, and you get to meet incredible people along the way. So I don't want to say there. I would say that while might be a misconception, there's also a lot of positives that come from that as well.
All right, Chad, is there anything you're looking forward to?
Absolutely. It only comes around every 4 years, but the World Cup is coming to North America here in about a year, a little less than a year and a half, and we're doing a lot around the upcoming FIFA World Cup with some of our partners like Coca-Cola, Unilever, and hopefully with Fox Sports here, to really bring kids, expose kids to this opportunity in their communities that will be happening all over the country. So I am ecstatic about the upcoming World Cup, and seeing what's possible to bring kids, to expose kids, I should say, to the world of soccer and the jobs available in the sports industry.
Yeah, I mean, Chad, your background is kind of in soccer, particularly you were a student athlete. You played soccer in high school and in college. So for you, what's special about soccer, and what makes you like that much more excited about the World Cup coming up?
I think it's the gathering of people of all nationalities, all ethnicities, and really celebrating something special, because that moment does not happen very often. And in sports, bringing people together, and it's a communal celebration, especially if your team wins. And everyone can relate or remember that moment in time when that team that you were all rooting for does well. And that's in soccer or football or baseball, etc. And I think that that's what's special about sports. And having that big event in the U.S., North America, Mexico, and in Canada, will really help galvanize the sport and the community across the country.
Yeah, totally. And what are some ideas or that you can talk about, obviously, that you guys are kind of thinking of, particularly with the Boys and Girls Club, of how you guys want to expose these kids to the game, to the World Cup?
Yeah, well, we're working on what the details are of that, but it's hopefully bringing players to clubs. It's bringing our partners together in that opportunity, or vice versa, bringing kids to the game. So it could happen in lots of different ways. We're still fine tuning the planning, but it is underway as this big event comes around in a very short period of time.
Absolutely. And are you guys looking for more hands on deck? The World Cup, I mean, it's gonna be the biggest World Cup ever. There are gonna be a lot of opportunities, like you said, to make impact, to make change, to expose kids to all kinds of players from all different parts of the world. How can people get involved with that?
Yeah, I think what we're hoping to drive towards is continuing to provide sports and soccer in particular within our clubs. And I think getting kids exposed to that, understanding the game, educating and using it as either a mentoring or an exposure or another way. I think folks could get involved by volunteering, coaching, and as things continue to develop, we'll continue to promote opportunities to get involved. Again, what that looks like in New York might look different than what happens in Dallas, Texas.
Now, promise the last question is, so we here at A&M we do a thing called Good Bull. So we'd like to ask our guests at the end of the show to send if they would like to send any good bull out to anybody. Essentially, this is like a shout out or like a good luck to someone you know.
I'll give a shout out. I'll give a big shout out to the Fox Sports team for all the incredible work that they've done to help support Boys and Girls Club of America and the kids around the country in such unique ways. And I think that opportunity, working with them and seeing the intentionality of their work and being really thoughtful and that close, sometimes you don't always meet partners, or you don't always meet people that have like that intention is real. And I would say Fox Sports team is that intentional and is just incredible to work with, and has been a real bright spot in the work that we do.
That's awesome to hear. Chad Hartman, thank you for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed the conversation, and really think that the world of sports is special. And I hope that people take it that way and use it as not use it as a way that's negative, but as a positive. And I think that will really drive interest. It'll drive healthy habits and fun, and a good fun celebration. Hopefully, your team wins in whatever game that is. But I think that is really what makes sports extra special, at least in my mind.